Question. Member from Timiskaming Cochrane.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Premier. I'd like to tell a little tale about Henry Fiset and Sons Limited in Elk Lake. They're Jerome and Terry are pillars in that community. They run a machine shop. Their hydro usage in January 2011 was 391 kilowatt hours per day. They made huge changes in their business, and in January 2017, their kilowatts per day were 220. So that was a 43% decrease. They have done their part.
Good for them.
Yet the bill, the overall bill, went up. It went up. Actually, the cost per kilowatt hour went up by 66%.
Wow.
Will you finally admit that your hydro plan for people like Henry Fiset and Sons has been a disaster for the last decade?
Question. Thank you.
Minister of Energy.
Be seated, please. Be seated, please. Thank you. Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pleased again to rise and talk about Ontario's Fair Hydro Plan that is specifically looking after folks that live in the rural and remote parts of our province, Mr. Speaker, because we have heard over the last 9 months that I've been in this portfolio, and even longer, Mr. Speaker, that there were concerns by businesses, by families that were in the rural and northern parts of our province. And so, Mr. Speaker, we brought forward rebates at those times, but they were very targeted in source, Mr. Speaker, and didn't necessarily provide the necessary relief that they were looking for. That's why the Ontario Fair Hydro Plan actually reduces those bills by 25%. And for businesses, Mr. Speaker, if they're time-of-use businesses, they will qualify for this. There are also other programs out there that actually help businesses lower their rates. I know the member talked about some of the programs that they were using, lowering their bills, which is great, Mr. Speaker, because that actually helps everyone across the province lower their energy consumption, which allows us not to build generation, Mr. Speaker, and lowers our cost.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Speaker, this government has been in power for 15 years. And now they're in danger. Their poll numbers are going down, so now they implement the Fair Hydro Plan. Where were the people? Where were they thinking about the people like Jerome and Terry and all the other business people and all the other residents all these years with their long-term energy plans? They never took the actual people who are paying the bills into account. It's a little too late now.
Thank you. Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We took action, Mr. Speaker, when we took over as government, rebuilding a system, Mr. Speaker, that was left in tatters by previous governments that cancelled programs, froze rates, and never invested in a system. We made sure that folks in Northern Ontario had access to power, Mr. Speaker, because before we were having an unreliable system that were never invested in by the previous governments, and they know it, Mr. Speaker. So as we rebuilt the system, as we eliminated coal, we invested $50 billion, Mr. Speaker, to make sure that we have a clean system, a reliable system, and now, Mr. Speaker, we're working to make it as affordable as possible. The Ontario Fair Hydro Plan, Mr. Speaker, will bring forward a 25% reduction for all families,
Thank you.
even more in rural areas, Mr. Speaker.